It's time to level up your racket stringing. So Brad and I are here to talk about how we can support the part-time racket community. I recently was really thinking in some of the videos that we were doing, and also some of the feedback from people in some of the Facebook groups. There's a good percentage of stringers out there that work part-time, whether they're a coach for a club, right? A teaching pro, or they work at a club stringing rackets, or they are a parent of a up and coming junior, or they just want a part-time business at home to supplement their income and just kind of, have a side gig hustle, right? We
Sure.
all do that. And a lot of people, have part-time jobs. And if you love tennis and you're into tennis and you like technical stuff and you like stringing and you like the community, this is perfect. So I thought this is kind of, I think, the focus. I think should be the focus of Racket Stringing Tips and my new Racket Stringing Pro website I'm working on, and then also the community that I'm starting to build over at school. It's a platform that allows creators, to have courses, and we're going to have a community in there. And every week there's going to be 2 or 3 live half-hour kind of Q&A get-togethers on different topics related to this. So yeah, I'm excited about that, Brad, and I know you're going to join in on a lot of that, and I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have lots of special guests. I'm going to continue to put content on YouTube that's going to be valuable to everybody, but also some more content is going to be in that community. And I will leave a link down below in the description of this video when it posts. So with that, I thought, well, first of all, Brad, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Happy to be here. We're getting a nice little snowstorm up here in New York, but other than that, we're doing
over
okay.
There in New York. Oh, yeah, you guys are probably like, what's the temperature out there?
Well, it's 30, but we're getting a few days coming up where it's going to be like the high 10, high 15 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're in the thick of it now, but that's okay. Still been stringing, still been getting on the tennis court indoors, and doing that stuff. And like you said, it's really the part-time stringers are way more in abundance than the professional stringers. It's probably 50 to 1. It's the mom and pop, it's the stringer at the club. Just like we had Herb on last week from Texas, who just started stringing because it was so expensive stringing his daughter's rackets. And that's how my family got into stringing. My dad didn't want to pay $20 every time we got a racket strung when we could buy synthetic gut for $2.50 and do it ourselves. So that's how a lot of people get started. And now, it's turned into a part-time business to me, where I can do at least 50 or 60 rackets a month, which is nice.
And as an example, like Herb, although it was a part-time job for him, part-time gig, it was actually almost like a full-time in the sense that the amount of effort he was putting into it. I mean, he was helping, he was helping out his community. He was helping out the juniors. He was helping out those that maybe didn't have the finances to really get up to where they wanted to go, as far as their equipment and all that. So he was really involved in the community. And, the tennis community really, they come together for things like that. And I think, I was thinking back about this the other day. I think a lot of my friends I met through the tennis community, just playing, being out on the park, being at the clubs. So it's kind of really a good group of people to be with, right?
Yeah,
so,
me too.
So I'm excited about that, and that's, I really want to build that kind of thing where we can collaborate and learn from each other. And so I guess going into this whole idea and kind of this new shift, I'm thinking like, okay, so leveling up your racket stringing looks different to different people because everybody's in a different spot. They're geographically in different areas. They have different goals. So I think, the first thing probably once I get the whole course going and everything is to kind of, I'm starting to spend some time in mapping out the trajectory of where I got to where I'm at now, like where I started, and where are those pivotal moments that like moved me into a new direction. And so if you look at the past, you can possibly, that could help you looking into the future, where to go and connect, make connections that way. So that's just kind of a way that you can kind of, visualize. I'm a visual person and stuff.
Sure.
But I was thinking like, okay, so, when you're starting to think about leveling up your stringing business, there's some core areas that you're going to really focus on, and you're not maybe going to focus on all of them, and they're going to look different to different people. That's why you might need some feedback. And so I kind of wrote down 9 different things, and I will post those in the video as well. And I'm just going to touch on them real briefly here. So the first thing that comes to mind is efficiency. Okay, that could look at different things, but it's like streamlining operations somehow to save time. Maybe your tools. It could be a mobile setup, automated booking systems. Ways to accommodate your clients efficiently. Okay, so that's like number one. Skill development. Enhancing maybe your technical skills, your credibility to your audience. Which could be online courses, certification programs, more learning, developing your skills, being part of a community, website like this as an example. The next thing would be marketing. What kind of marketing strategies, whether you have a website and you need to hone in on your SEO, or you're using social media,
Right.
referral programs, participations with clubs, increasing your visibility, things like that. So that's what I think of. So I'll just kind of go through all these things, and then we can just
Sounds
dialogue
good.
about a few of them and just kind of chat, right? Customer service. We can always improve our customer service, right? For retention and satisfaction by implementing the follow-up on the stringing, communication, making sure we're doing great and getting feedback from our customers. Revenue streams. Is there maybe another revenue stream that you can look at, whether it's bundling some of your services, looking at a new geographical area? There's, I think, a lot that can go with revenue streams to kind of
Yes.
improve. Ultimately, the goal here is to increase your bottom line, right? So always keep that in mind. Technology. What could you do in the technology area? Does it mean maybe you need to scale up your stringing machine? Does it mean that you need to get up to speed on the new technologies and the rackets and the strings, just to be more to know what's out there? Maybe technical skills for developing some using some software for customer connections, or storing all your information, communicating with your customers, things like that. And then maybe flexibility. Do you need to maybe be more flexible in the way that you approach your business? Like, you have same day service, you have pickup, after hours, you can go string at on site somewhere, you can have a mobile service, you can, all those things, right? So
Yeah.
that's maybe an area that you can hone in on. Okay, so then the last two, community building. How do you engage with your local community? Are you going to connect with club pros, or the city courts, or are you going to have sponsor some events, building some networks that way? And then the last thing would be resource management. How are you managing all of your resources? That could mean efficient inventory. It could mean keeping track of all your supplies, and not having too much excess or anything like that. So there's a lot of things I think you can do in that regard.
Sure.
So that's like the overlining framework that I'm going to be working with. And then in our community there, the idea is to be able to take that part-time stringer wherever they're at, and kind of map out some of these things and help figure out, okay, what's the next step? Where can I make it adjustments? Again, you don't have to be perfect in all these areas. You don't have to do them all, but it's just that 1% better, right? Just try to be 1% better. Ultimately, that can lead to some, I think, you can 5x or or more
Yeah,
your
sure.
business, if that's what you want. If you know, so that all depends. So I'll kind of leave it open with that. Let's just chat a little bit about that, and you know, throw out a few good ideas, a few nuggets that maybe somebody could use today in this video.
Yeah, like you said, a lot of it depends on where you are, where you're, where you are in your journey. Are you just starting? Are you looking for some tips to be a better stringer, to learn more? Certainly, you can join some of the the Facebook groups. You're getting your thing started on school, which is going to be awesome. You're going to have some special guests and really get into helping just the mom and pop stringer, and then really, possibly looking at does it make sense to get certified? So you actually really have to learn everything, even stuff you may never really have to deal with on customizing weight or this and that, but still at least understanding it. And the more you know, the more you understand, the more confidence you're going to have. And then with that confidence, it's going to make it easier just to have random conversations. If you go up to a park and you're watching people play one day, or maybe you're at the park hitting, and you see a few people playing next to you, someone breaks their string. So you might be able to approach them. Hey, where do you get your racket strung? And well, I don't know. Well, hey, I string, and so that's happened to me a lot. I've gotten some business that way. And so there's a lot of areas that you can, like, hey, what should I focus on? And then you focus on that area. Like you said, you 1% better, marginal gains, right? And then, okay, well, let's look at over here next time, and maybe I can improve something over there.
One thing that just, while you're talking about that too, I'm thinking of, your return on investment, right?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of, because the one question a lot of stringers are always asking is, should I upgrade to an electronic stringing machine? Should I, which machine should I buy? And, they're maybe stringing 5 rackets a month, and they're willing to put $4,000 down on a stringing machine. Is that really the best? Is that really the best use of your money at that point? Because like I can give you an example of how, like, sometimes your ideas or your ambitions cloud your reality, right? Because when I first opened up a tennis shop with a buddy of mine from college, we had a third party had given us a sum of money to put into a shop, and I learned some of the basics from somebody who had just opened a shop previously, but I used a lot of what they were doing as my reference point. And I think I was a little bit zealous. Looking back, I'm going, man, we made so many mistakes at that shop initially. So,
Yeah.
okay, so imagine a couple 21-year-olds out of college, okay, not really a job of any other kind at that point. And actually, I think we were 22, 23, because it was
22,
maybe a
23.
year, maybe it was a year or two after college or whatever, right?
Okay.
And so we get into a 3-year lease because we took the person who was renting the retail space. We were taking his word for, like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, it was a 2-year lease. We only do 2-year leases, and I mean, this was many years ago, and we were paying $2,100 a month, and
Wow.
we were locked in. It was 1,000 square feet. We were locked in for 2 years. Okay. And so we had no clients. We'd never done this before. I had been stringing at that time for maybe a couple years, just like working at my friend's shop, who ultimately he was the one that started me. He's the one that taught me and mentored me. And he's the one that, leads the Yonex and head string teams at many of the pro events these days, and he's still doing it. But so we open this up, and then we're like, oh, we need to get the best sign. We need to get this awesome sign,
Yeah.
right? So we spent $3,800 on a light up sign that was custom made for us for the name, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so is that just like we were looking way too far ahead? Because by the time to bring it back down to the story, the whole thing here is that by the time we got all of the making it look nice kind of thing down, we hardly had any money left for inventory.
Yeah, like who knows what would have happened to Apple or Microsoft or Amazon if they had started with, took out big loans to get their first office instead of starting in their garage, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you should
Yeah.
have started in your garage and
Yeah,
just
no, totally. No, actually,
yeah.
looking back, we should have opened up a little 200 square foot place somewhere strategically located. I mean, we were strategically located. We were across from a junior college and a really good high school. So I mean,
Yeah.
we were in a good area, but like, just open up a 20, a 200-foot place, get a good, I mean, because we bought a computerized stringing machine. I mean, and this was like in 1995.
That was like a $55,000 investment for 2 years if you're paying $2,000 a month plus the stringing machine
Yeah,
plus the
I don't even want to look at it like
yeah.
that, right? Because we were, yeah. So the whole thing here was, you get yourself into those situations, and then looking back, you go, if we would have just had a 200 square foot shop, get a basic machine, put up a banner, just start buying inventory, having the money on hand, to just work on building up our clients. That should have been what we should have done.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
hindsight always, kicks you in the butt, right? And
It does.
it is what it
It
is. But
does.
that's why we're here. I mean, we both learned from experiences that we've done over time, so we can kind of walk people through that and say, hey, let's look at this from another perspective.
That's for sure. I mean, I started with a gamma progression ELS, did maybe
Mhm.
200 rackets my first year. Then I got up to 400. And then once I got into the third year, I said, well, let's get a Bayardo, which was $5,500. And it took me maybe 3 months to pay that off. It wasn't long. I was starting to string quite a bit, but I wouldn't have started with a $5,000-$6,000 investment, not certain the trajectory of my business. It did continue to go up, but it's always, to me, it's like, I'm the type of person who'd rather have $1,000 in my pocket than, the latest gadget or this and that, and $0 in my pocket. There's something about having cash. Cash it gives you options, and it gives you really just it gives you a lot of choices, which is nice.
Yeah, you learn from that, because before that point, I was wanting to start a part-time stringing business, but there were a lot of other stringers in my area. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna start with racquetball clubs. There was a lot of racquetball clubs, and they didn't really have stringers. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go to the racquetball clubs. At that time, I just had a crank machine, and it was an Alpha stand-up machine. It did have 6-point mounting, and it had fixed clamps on on your traditional clamps. So it was decent in that regard, and it was a pretty decent crank machine, and it could string racquetball rackets. So I went to some of the clubs, and I would do pickup and delivery, and that's how I started stringing. Even
How
though I
often do
didn't,
people break those rackets? I wouldn't think they would break too often.
because at racquetball clubs, there's only so many places you can play racquetball, and so you would get a good number of A-level players, that would break strings, or they would restring frequently enough where, I mean, it's not going to make you rich, but it's a part-time starting,
Sure.
And I recommend that to people, like if they're stuck where they're at right now, they're thinking like, okay, well, how can I expand this? Well, you have squash, you have badminton. Badminton's big in a lot of areas. I mean, it was
Sure
where I
is.
was at.
Here
You might
too.
have to get an adapter for your machine, and you might have to really learn a little bit more about badminton, and that they're thinner strings, and it takes a little bit different stringing techniques to some degree. Yeah, because I actually strung at a professional badminton event when I was representing one of the racket companies, and I'd never strung badminton rackets that much before, and I was stringing them for the pros at a tournament.
Oh, wow.
But it was, I mean, I kind of had some, knowledge of it, and I practiced a little bit before, and I had strung rackets for a while by that time. So, I transferred over my skills, but anyway, so yeah, looking at it that way, right? Looking at how can you pivot in just something like that. But yeah, those are some lessons learned, right? I know we kind of went off on a tangent there. Maybe we should just touch on one real good thing from that list. Okay, so I'll pick one, and I think maybe then you can pick one, right, in one of the areas, because you also have the same list that I was looking that I created, right?
Right.
So So one thing would be, okay, how about efficiency? Let's talk about efficiency. So what would that look like maybe for like a new stringer? So maybe have a machine that, it's one of those things where you are like, oh, I want to get the biggest machine possible. I'm going to get a Biardo, that weighs 150 pounds that I can never move.
Yeah, right.
And then you're like, oh, I'm stringing at home, but I can't get these things to a tournament. So what about the efficiency of your stringing, meaning that you want to be visible in the community? So you might need to get something that's portable, but yet looks fairly professional. Get a little table set up where you have a table, you've got, your marketing materials, you have a decent supply of string, and you set up at a park maybe when there's a tournament.
Sure.
Or you set up at clubs that you connect with, because some clubs maybe need help for stringing at the tournament because everybody who's working at the club is working at the tournament, and so they don't have time to string. So maybe you can work something out, and if they're like, well, I don't know, they don't want to give up the revenue or whatever, you can maybe say, all right, for every racket that I string, I'll put $5 back.
Yeah.
The club gets $5. Do whatever to get yourself started. And that kind of thing. So that would be kind of my thing. You could be more efficient in the way that you offer services. That could be picking up rackets at different places. It could be willing to drive in your geographical area to
Sure.
pick up and deliver. Usually business people, they're all about convenience, right? They have to go to a laundromat, pick up their dry cleaning and get it and all that. They usually have somebody else doing that for them. They have couriers that take mail back and forth from business to business because the businesses are busy doing what they, to make money, right? And so they
Yeah.
don't, it's worth their time to have other people do those tasks. So if you can drop off and deliver, I have done that many times at
Me too.
businesses. So dropping off and picking up, having communication, texting is, I think, what most people really prefer, and it's the quickest way to get results right away. So that would be my one nugget, today in this video would be that the efficiency of maybe that new stringer or somebody looking to scale it up, and looking at some of those things as
Yeah.
far as possibly. Okay, yeah. So I'll leave it at
Good.
that.
Yep. I would say maybe just, you mentioned it earlier, just like your skill development, like how to improve, utilize the internet, utilize YouTube, utilize Facebook, maybe spend one day and say, hey, let's look at all the different types of knots that I can use when stringing a tennis racket. And there's some great videos up close on, we all get in the habits, and I use like 2 knots, I use the Parnell and the half hitch, and, and maybe I should learn some of the other knots too. But, and also like looking at some of the online courses. Do you think it would benefit you to take an online course and, really up your game? Do any of my stringing clients care that I am certified? No, I don't think they do. They don't care. I haven't lost one customer or gained a customer because I told them I'm a certified stringer. But it does make you more confident. It does give you a lot of knowledge, which is important, and it gives you that extra like confidence and skill. I'm master racket technician through the USRSA. Pat is, and it was nice. It was a challenging exam, and I did learn a lot from it. And I was had already strung 2,000 rackets in my life before I got that certification, and there was a lot of stuff that I never even thought of when I was stringing. So it was useful, and I'm glad I took it and stuff. But there's a lot of things that you can do to learn and improve. And so I would focus on your skill development,
Yeah, there's actually just touching on that. There's in the community, the Facebook community that I was looking at and looking at some of the posts and looking at what some of the other stringers have accomplished. Some have strung 20, 30,000 rackets in their life, and they are still not, they're not certified. They have built
Yeah.
up their clientele. They don't need, at that point, certification, that might be a moot point. But there are purposes for it. There are uses for it. And we know that, a couple years ago when we joined the ERSA,
Yeah, the
European Racket
European
Streaming
record. Mhm.
Association. And the reason that I wanted to get that perspective is because they have a much more robust group and a lot farther reach out into the professional realm
Yeah, they do.
as far as customizing rackets and getting connected at tournaments. They have different levels of professional stringing certifications, and some of their workshops were really valuable because it was from people in the industry that maybe aren't in the U.S. or they're not going to be part of the U.S. RSA, but they're part of the ERSA. And I just felt that Mark allows, I can't pronounce his last name, Mark.
Oh yeah, Meslowski or
Yeah,
some.
yeah, exactly. And the group over there, it was great. That was during COVID, and I remember, we did online, and the time zone difference was really hard. But I remember it was a 2-day, 3-day event, and they still have those every year. And
Yeah.
they're different countries, usually like somewhere in the European Union, but you can learn tons from that. And so that's the one thing you can't. I mean, just having, I guess the better way to say it is your education. That's for you. You can't really put a dollar amount on. You can't really put a value. It's just something that I think can really build your presence, and it
Yes.
might not be tangible. You might not be able to see it, but it's there. So, yeah.
Another thing too is, and I've said this before, is if you've learned stringing and maybe you got hooked up by someone that's got a good position, like Pat said, one of his buddies was in charge of the Yonex who got him into stringing. And I think that there are some stringers who have done the $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 rackets for the average club person who are going to be way better than someone who only strings for professional tournaments. Because when you string only for professional tournaments, you are spoiled. You're never going to have to replace a grommet. You're never going to have to, right? Everything is perfect. The rackets are in the best shape. The grommets are clean. And so you've never really had some of those issues that might pop up with the average player who's using rackets that they haven't made in 25 years too. Like you don't see that with a professional tournament. So
Yeah,
it's
I hadn't really thought about that in a while, but you're so right. I remember after coming back from a tournament,
yeah,
and then you have your clients, you're like going, "Oh my gosh, do I have to really string this racket?" Or
totally.
it's like, "Are you kidding me? Get a new racket, man." But
Right.
yeah, it's a whole different perspective, a whole different way of looking at it, and a whole different skill set.
It is.
And so it's a really good point that you brought that up. And I think that's kind of what we're about here. We're going to be just really focusing on that, getting that part-time stringer where they want to get, utilizing our new community, and, the inside our community, just having kind of a robust course load and just collaboration. And so we're just getting started with that. So, it's free to join. So please just, go over to that. The link will be in this description. And, I'm starting the live videos this coming week, actually. So, you can join in on those. I'll try to make them at different times for different folks, because I'm out, I'm in the Hawaii time zone. And so it makes things a little bit more challenging for those after work, but we'll see what we can do to, maybe I can accommodate, make some early morning ones as well.
It's funny. I just got a, yeah, there you go. But it's funny because I try to, as a part-time racket stringer, I just got a text message from a local college player. Hey, I just broke a string. If I bring it over shortly, now it's 10 to 7 at night. Can you have it done by 6:30 tomorrow morning? I said, yes, absolutely. Bring it over as soon as you can. And that's, that is, what goes into when you're a stringer and you want to provide for your client. He's got a match tomorrow. And so I said, bring it over. I'll get it done tonight. So,
right.
that's kind of
and that's a good example.
next level
So how would
service, and
you,
I'm not going to charge a premium.
yeah, and that's one of those things where you go, okay, so how are you going to handle this? Are you going to say, oh, you know what? No, or like, yeah, it's going to cost you $10 extra. No, this is a client of yours that you've been
A
servicing for
good
a
client.
while. Right, a good client. They're
Yes.
relying on you. You know what? Sometimes they might throw you an extra $5 or $10 for their appreciation, but you don't monetize that kind of a situation. But
No, I
when
do
you would,
50 to 60 rackets for them a year.
right, when you monetize it is when somebody new is coming to you saying,
Yeah.
"Hey, you know what? I really need this racket strung, and can you do it like by such and such?" Yeah, my service, I charge an extra, whatever amount, and they would be happy to pay that.
Right.
But they probably, the reason they're coming
Sure.
to you is probably because they weren't able to get it with their regular stringer. So they're going to be willing
That's
to
right.
pay that extra money, but you don't do that with your regular
Yep.
clients. So you got to kind
No.
of know how to massage your, or how to navigate, you know, client communication and stuff, because you definitely don't want to lose your client or have them kind of go, wow, he's kind of like, I've given him all this business and he's going to like charge me extra for this one time. Now, obviously, if this happens a lot, then you might want to
Right.
negotiate with
Yeah, I
him
might
and
say,
kind
hey,
of
you
sit
got
down and go, hey, you know what? I don't mind stringing, I mean, that's why I'm here to help you out and all that. But maybe let's figure out some,
yeah,
adjustments or whatever. So yeah, I think that's a good first show on this
absolutely.
today, and I appreciate your input, Brad. And until
Thank you.
next video, um,
Next
uh,
time.
I guess that's goodbye for now.